Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We now invite you to stand for the national anthem.
Thank you very much, Simone. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I begin, the person who owns a white car, 2424 GC, the window on your passenger side is down, so maybe you'd want to just correct that. Chairman of the Board of GraceKennedy Limited, Professor Gordon Shirley. Chief Executive Officer of GraceKennedy Limited, Mr. Don Webby. Members of the Board of Directors of GraceKennedy Limited and the GraceKennedy Foundation. This evening's lecturer, Dr. Fritz Pinnock, and his co-author, Dr. Ibrahim Ajaguna, their families and friends, members of Parliament, members of the Diplomatic Corps, and particularly representatives of the Nigerian High Commission, members of the media, distinguished guests, colleagues, students, and friends. My acknowledgement and welcome to you, our very special guests, constitute an observation of protocol on behalf of all the speakers this evening. Caribbean pirates in the 17th century made Port Royal their home, and that city was considered to be, quote, the mercantile hub of the Caribbean and the most economically important English port in the Americas, unquote. This evening's lecture focuses on Jamaica's historic and continuing role in global shipping and the imminence for far more momentous developments. It is with pleasure, therefore, that I welcome you all this afternoon. This presentation has an urgency which many previous lecturers did not have, as Jamaica is currently caught up in an impassioned debate on the implications of the establishment of a global logistics hub in Jamaica, with many contending views being expressed. The Foundation is pleased to be partnering with the Caribbean Maritime Institute in this endeavor. While this is the first time that the Institute is participating in the lecture series, It has had a long and warm relationship with our parent company, which up to a decade ago had been an integral player in the shipping industry, contributing significantly to Jamaica's growth in this arena. As such, we extend a very special welcome not only to our authors, Drs. Pinnock and Ajaguna, but to the entire CMI contingent. We take this opportunity to express our pride in the outstanding reputation that the Institute enjoys globally for the quality of its graduates, which have been placed in industry worldwide. Welcome also to directors and staff of the Foundation and of our parent company, GraceKennedy, which consistently supports the efforts of the Foundation. There are several individuals and groups who have become loyal supporters of the lecture series. I can count on seeing them here every year. And they're here again this evening. We are very grateful for your dedication and the insight many of you bring to the discussion period. Significant members of this group are our secondary and tertiary students, their teachers and lecturers. Many of you have traveled many miles into Kingston, and we feel privileged by the effort that you have made to be here with us this afternoon. The audience has grown significantly over the past few years, and already this evening promises to surpass our previous numbers. So let me welcome all of you who are joining us for the first time. I can guarantee that this will not be your last as you experience the rigor of the research, the incisiveness of the analysis, and the erudition inherent in the presentation. For the very first time, we are streaming the lecture live from the Foundation's YouTube page. So special welcome to those members of the audience participating via the internet. Members of the media can always be counted on to ensure that the debate started here continues in our press and electronic media, and maybe even on the YouTube channel. Welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us. We are confident that you will find the lecture interesting and thought-provoking, and we look forward to a lively and stimulating discussion period. I'll now call on Mr. James Solomon to introduce our lecturer, after which Dr. Pinnock will come and deliver the lecture for us.
Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
No one can deny the timeliness of this lecture as the nation prepares for the impending logistics hub. It is a much debated subject with many widely divergent opinions on the value it will bring to the national economy and the lives of the Jamaican people. The discussion of a development of this potential magnitude needs careful and informed guidance. An insightful analysis of the subject by persons who have a wide and deep knowledge of the subject will provide some measure of this guidance. The GraceKennedy Foundation Lecture Committee gives very careful consideration to the selection of persons, or in this case, persons deemed most suited to deal with the topic of choice, and this year was no different. Dr. Fritz Pinnock, along with Dr. Ibrahim Ajaguna, have spent years in not only learning about logistics in theory and practice, but have added such valuable data to the scholarship of logistics planning with a strong focus on the Caribbean experience. Dr. Ajaguna, who is Nigerian by birth, is a chartered fellow of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transportation of the United Kingdom, and a member of that country's Hotel and Catering International Management Association. He is president of the Council of Heads of Caribbean Hospitality Schools and a member of the Board of Studies for Tourism and Hospitality Studies, the University Council of Jamaica, as well as the Task Force on Education and Training for the Logistics Hub Development in Jamaica. Dr. Ajaguna's research interests are in strategic planning, using the Blue Ocean Strategy, maritime transportation and sustainability, integration of logistics and supply chain, security and national development, health tourism, Using Alternative Medicine and Sustainable Development. At this point, I would like to acknowledge a contingent from the Nigerian High Commission who have joined us today to support their fellow countryman, Dr. Ibrahim Ajaguna. It is clear that Ibrahim is an outstanding scholar, educator, and an expert in the field of logistics, and we are very privileged that he has co-authored the lecture book with Dr. Pinnock. Please join me in giving a warm round of appreciation to Dr. Ibrahim Ajaguna. Dr. Pinnock holds a BSc Honors degree in Economics and Accounting from the University of the West Indies, an MSc in International Shipping and Logistics from the University of Plymouth in the United Kingdom, and a Doctor of Philosophy in Sustainable Development from the UWI. Dr. Pinnock has authored 3 books, one of which was co-authored with Dr. Ajaguna and Dr. Jan Alex. Maritime Terminal Operations and Management, published in Canada. Caribbean Cruise Tourism, Power Relations Among Stakeholders, 2012. LAP Lambert Academic Publishing in Germany. And Global Maritime Transportation Corridors, 2012. The Cephicil Foundation in France, co-authored with Dr. Jan Alex and Dr. Ibrahim Ajaguna, published in French, Spanish, and English. He has also published numerous academic peer-reviewed and industry articles, magazines, and journals worldwide. In multiple languages, including French, German, and Spanish, he is a contributing writer and columnist to the Caribbean Maritime Magazine, the leading shipping magazine published by the Caribbean Shipping Association, and has developed numerous course manuals. Dr. Pinnock is an international maritime and logistics consultant who has worked on numerous projects in collaboration with the Government of Canada, the International Development Bank, CARICOM, and many regional ports. He is highly regarded internationally for the value he brings to the field of logistics management and enjoys long-standing membership in the leading global institutions in the logistics arena. He has been a member of the British Institute of Management since 1991, the Institute of Logistics and Distribution Management, and has been a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Logistics Transport, United Kingdom, since 1993. He has been the executive director of the Caribbean Maritime Institute, the CMI, since 2006, and has continued to build on the reputation of excellence the CMI enjoys in the region and the global maritime industry. A committed Jamaican, he has consistently voiced his concern regarding the preparation of our youth through training to effectively fill the needs of a developing economy. His knowledge and experiences shared through membership on boards such as Heart Trust, National Training Agency, Board of Directors, and the National Apprenticeship Board. He is a special advisor to various governmental and non-governmental agencies and sits on several institutional, community, and sports-related boards, including serving as the chairman of the Jamaica Rowing Federation and chairman of the Associates Committee Port Management Association of the Caribbean. There is a popular Jamaican saying that when you want to truly know a man, you must speak to his neighbor. These people who know Dr. Pinnock best spoke very definitively about the type of human being he is when, on the basis of their reports, he was selected as the Jamaican Association for Administrative Professionals All-Island Boss of the Year 2013-2014. Help me welcome to the lectern this evening's GraceKennedy Foundation lecturer, Dr. Fritz Pinnock.
Thank you, Uncle Jimmy. I can call him that. That was a paid announcement, ladies and gentlemen. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I feel a little nervous. Prof. Shirley, why are you looking at me like that? All right, it's good. Prof. Riley, thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, this feels like a continuation of Uncle Jimmy's lecture in 2012. Jamaica and GraceKennedy, Dreams Converging, Roads Diverging. I encourage you all to read this lecture. On the other lectures, they have been of excellent quality. Dr. Ajaguna, I'd like you to stand, please, because I'm doing this on behalf of both of us. Just stand up for the audience, please. Thank you very much.
I figure 75% to you, Panma, and 25% divided between the 5 of us. Yida, Crowbar, myself, Tom, and the baby. That makes 5% for each one of us.
Billy, you're cheating yourself. If there's 25% divided among the 5 of you, that's 14% apiece.
Oh, no, listen, Pa. I wouldn't cheat you. You know I wouldn't. Now, look here. I'll show you. Let me rub this out here. And now, 25 divided by 5 is 5. You see, 5 won't go into 2, will it? No. But 5 goes into 25 5 times, you see?
No, you're wrong, Billy. Now, I'm pretty good mathematician. Now, 5 into 25, 5 won't go into 2, will it?
No.
But 5 goes into 5 once. Now, we didn't use the 2 before, so we bring it down here. Now, 5 into 20 goes 4 times. There you are. 5 into 25, 14.
No, look, Pa. Let me prove it to you now by multiplication. 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25.
Really, I'm surprised you're learning.
Huh?
I'm surprised that you're learning. Now I'll show you. 5 times 14 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5. 25. That's it.
No, look, Ma. Look, you're wrong there because I'll prove it to you. We'll put down 5 14s here. 14, 14, 14. There. Now I'll prove to you by addition that 5 14s is not 25. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20.
21, 22, 23, 24, 25. There you are. Better brush up, Billy. I don't want to see you boys cheated.
Ladies and gentlemen, when you hear of the logistics of what comes to mind, when you think of the topic of the lecture from piracy to transshipment, Jamaica's journey, let me take you back in time. Shipping is one of the oldest industries next to prostitution. I didn't have time to do the research. Uncle Jimmy is more of an expert, so he will come and present on prostitution at the next lecture. Noah's Ark have been the largest ocean-going vessel ever built until the late 19th century. Noah's Ark could hold 20 NBA basketball courts, 569 modern railway cars, 1.5 million cubic feet of space, 100,000 square feet of space. Noah's Ark was a mega ship. If you look in the Bible, you will see the dimensions written there in Genesis, and I'll show you. But just to tell you that King Solomon built the first transshipment port. He was so wise that other kings and queens would go to him to purchase horses and chariots. He would buy them from Egypt and mark them up 400 or 500% and then sell them back as King Solomon's branded horse and chariots. That was early transshipment. King Jehoshaphat built a fleet of ships that were wrecked before they ever sailed. That was early terrorism, and the United States could not blame it on bin Laden. These are the dimensions given for Noah's Ark, ladies and gentlemen. At 45 feet high, Noah's Ark was a 6-story building without a crane. Can you picture? In 34 BC, this was a mega ship. The length overall, LOA, 25 meters, the breadth overall, 7 meters, and the depth or the draft, which is what you need to float the vessel. It's a pleasure to see the Minister of Education. Welcome, Honorable. Honored to it. 70 tons. This vessel was a mega ship, but it was propelled by brute force, 100 men. Now you look at the vessel that Columbus visited Jamaica in 1492. It was slightly bigger, but because of propulsion by wind, was able to reduce the crew to 40. And let me suggest that Columbus got pushed by a very strong magnetic breeze called the northeast trade winds that blew him right through the passage. And he couldn't go any further when he stopped in Jamaica. It was so magnetic. These are the signs of early piracy. Thanks to Dr. Jaguna. If you have any of these at home, check them out. If there's no teeth, he's a potential pirate. The age of piracy. Prior to 1655, the Spanish, when they occupied Jamaican territory, they did not find any gold. And of course, in the good old Jamaican language, we don't come here for corn cow, we come for drink milk. So they went to Panama, they went to Hispaniola, where there were gold available on the surface, relatively. And so there was a bit of lawlessness and poverty of what took place. Uncle Jimmy did a detailed history on Port Royal. And this is where I tell you he's an expert, and I really mean that when I said in the other areas too. So at the time when the English lost their position and came to Port Royal, they found that the strategic position of Port Royal was so important. But after losing many opportunities to piracy, the king in England at the time summoned the then pirate Henry Morgan to execute him publicly in England. And while he was there, one of the advisors apparently went to the king and said, "King, but you can utilize his service." And this is how the Donmanship started in Jamaica. He said, rather than execute him, why not knight him and call him Sir Henry Morgan and send him back? Let him take control of Jamaica. He said, good idea. But if we knight him, we cannot call him a pirate. We have to find a nice name for him, a sexier name. Like how you'd call a garbage man a sanitation engineer, you know? So he said, let's call him a privateer or a buccaneer. That sounds good. So he said to Henry Morgan, prepare your strategic plan. Henry Morgan, what he did, he said, let's invite all the brethren of the coast, all the other thieves and pirates. Let them gather at Port Royal. But ladies and gentlemen, let me suggest to you that piracy had a lot of rules. In fact, on some ships, no women were allowed. No smoking were allowed. The rules were very strict. And at that time, Port Royal developed as a mercantile capital. And in fact, it was the largest city in the New World. Boston was second to Port Royal. While Boston had 6,000 people, Port Royal had 10,000. In a 51-acre strip of land, there was over 2,000 buildings, with the largest concentration of four-story buildings in the world. 600 four-story buildings in that place. Can you picture that? While the rest of the world was using barter system, Port Royal was using coins. A brothel room in Port Royal was 3 times more expensive than that in High Street, London. So, Paco, can you imagine that? So, Port Royal was a developed city. That was when Jamaica shone. And we know what happened in 1692 when the earthquake came, 2/3 of the island. And in fact, piracy was the colonial version of investment banking. Those riches could not be sent by Western Union at the time. So they had to take the ship. So you see the benefit of Western Union now. Give it up for GraceKennedy. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a ranking of but this was done by Forbes, a ranking of pirates. And you can see that Jamaica ranked number 8 according to this list. But further research shows that they missed about 120 million US dollar extrapolated in present day dollars of Henry Morgan's wealth. And if you add 120 million to the 13 million, you can see somewhere where he would fall off the scale. He would be at number 0. So, Henry Morgan was quite a wealthy man, and so was the Jamaican economy at the time. If you look, you see the outer boundaries of the sunken city. 2/3 of Port Royal is now submerged. This is just a mock-up of what the city looked like before, prior to. Ladies and gentlemen, let's move forward. We have the second oldest railway in the world, next to that in the UK. We got trains before the United States. We have no reason to be poor. This is intermodal transport at its best. We had a tram service in the city, the ships coming in, connecting to the rail. This is the heights of intermodal transportation. Good to see Minister Hilton. Welcome, sir. Thank you. These are the early days. When a ship come in, the pockets were filled with the port workers, and what couldn't hold in the pocket had to go in the stores. This is a plan of downtown Kingston. These are the finger piers. And ladies and gentlemen, we transition from the pirate economy to that of the early general cargo days, when downtown Newport East was where the piers were, the finger piers. Just stretch out your hands like this and look at them. Open the fingers a little bit, man. As some ladies are too close. Open them. That's where the finger piers, because a ship would come in and spend 3 to 4 months in port. The crew had sufficient time to go ashore, get married, start a family, divorce before the ship sailed. But now, things have changed, ladies and gentlemen. This is the finger pier back in the time. And there was a major shift in industry when the box was invented, that container. In 1956, that connected the different modes of transport, that shuts the eyes out of containers. And at that time, the port shifted from Newport East to the start of Newport West. Because prior to that, the most important part of a port was a shed to store the goods and a narrow apron or strip bird face to land the goods. There are 2 forces driving the global economy. The first force is called scale. Usually says not the thing on the fish I'm talking about, not the thing you use to weigh the fish, but the economies of scale. And the second force is that of technology. And the same principle holds with scale. Because if you were to use a robot taxi to carry 10 people, 10 passengers. Remember, they small up themselves, right? You all know this. Ambassadors, you know this too? Yes. Small up themselves. And you have to substitute that taxi to a robot coaster minibus that can carry 50 people. Because you have standing room. As long as you're in any position, vertical, horizontal, you're in a seat. Everything is a seat. You pay for it. You're able now to reduce the rate per head. Welcome, Ambassador Mata. Thank you. You're able to reduce the per head rate from $100 to $50 and actually make more money gross. That's the whole concept with ships today. They are small up themselves. That's it. Thank you. So this was the concept of the first container ship, the Ideal X, in 1956. And as the ships get bigger, they need more draft, more water to float. Hence the reason you hear the term, we have to dredge the channel. This is the stern of the world's largest container ship afloat, the Maersk EE. This ship can hold 863 million tins of baked beans. GraceKennedy branded baked beans. This ship can hold 8 Eiffel Towers or 36,000 motor cars. 36,000 motor cars. Do you have any parking lots that can hold that in Jamaica? Professor, you have any at the UE? Thank you, just about. If you were to start these containers in the wrong place, this is what it would look like. So, ladies and gentlemen, the box have changed the world. 90% of the volume of goods travel by sea. McLean was an American trucker who formed the first shipping line, Sealand. In fact, GraceKennedy represented Sealand. Right, Paco? Thank you. So, his vision was to focus on moving freight rather than moving ships. Ships would move and become warehouses in ports for months. But he flipped the coin, increased the pace at which you can move the cargo, and then the ships can get in and out. You need less ships. So in other words, shipping industry took on this sprinting pattern, like what Jamaica is famous for. So the whole container concept was more than a metal box, but an entire new way of handling freight, a new system of thinking. It required a new port infrastructure. You now need the cranes on shore as opposed to the cranes on the ship. You now need the interface between the ship and the land with the rail and the trucks, intermodal transport. So you can see some early costs to show the shift to containerization, because the total cost per unit, $10.87 versus over 100% more using a conventional ship. So you can tell why the shift to containerization. The Asian companies, the Asian countries, major companies there invested heavily in this whole container system, and that differentiated their economies in the early days. But ladies and gentlemen, then came technology. This is on board one of the Virgin Atlantic flights. You can actually stay at your seat and order drinks for somebody else at another seat. Conversational piece. First time when you go to the beach, what's it that people used to do at the beach? Look starfish. Not many starfish around anymore, right? Or you play and have a good time, you talk, you chat, you relax. What do people do at the beach today? Technology have changed the way. And in fact, ladies and gentlemen, last week Sunday I was at KPH and I saw a lady on a stretcher going to the operating theater, all covered up with her phone. Selfie. Selfie. Ladies and gentlemen, the cruising industry. We're a major cruise player. But we have to relook how we operate and position in this industry. In this industry, in the Caribbean, we get 50% of the volume of passengers and less than 5% of the gross revenues. We cannot change this by talking. We have to change this by doing. And I want to commend Professor Shirley in his other capacity at the Port Authority for the great strides that you're making, sir, in helping to add greater value. This industry is unique in that if the shipping lines don't like what you're saying, like little boys playing, they can take up their marbles and go elsewhere. You cannot do it to the hotel. So this industry has great opportunity. The challenges that we face, they can be deemed great opportunities if we can look at greater linkages. And this is what I'm saying. This industry currently, 70% leakage is coming out of the... In other words, every dollar spent, 70% goes back to the ship. They are doing great business. We have to now improve and change our strategy. This was in 1966, the opening of Newport West. Our initial response to the change in the industry when the shift to containerization. This was the first container vessel in 1966. And this was the roll and roll off ship where you actually drive the whole trailer onto the ship and off. This was the introduction. Then the pace of technology started to grow very rapidly. And we can see the shift here. These are the sheds at Kingston Wharves, because then that was the most valuable part, one of the most valuable assets, to get the goods quickly into the shed and to store it close to the ship where you can load the ship as fast. And you can see the transition now, where Kingston Wharf itself transitioning to containers through the mobile harbor cranes, the Gotwal. And as it grew, get a nice aerial shot, then this was the era of transition, when the whole concept of containerization changed, where the industry adopted from the airline industry the hub and spoke. And if you have a hub, it must be connected to spokes. So the big ship would come to the hub, drop off, and smaller vessels will take it to different spokes, and vice versa. So that was the context and concept. And here was the introduction of the specialized container terminal. But ladies and gentlemen, this is what it looks like now. This is the Causeway Bridge. This is the Fort Augusta prison, and the whole notion that whatever is dredged could have been presented. So this is what Professor Shirley is now packaging for divestment. But ladies and gentlemen, there is a shift again. Because since 2008, transshipment is now a cost to shipping lines. 9 out of every 10 containers that passes through a port, and not just our port, in the Caribbean, does not have matching exports. So, as the margins get tighter, I see Mr. Ishmael here, who used to run his ships. Thank you, sir. Right, as the margins get tighter, there's a greater push to get two-way cargo. So in fact, when you look at the trade of Panama, Panama has 3.5 million people, but they're generating 300,000 domestic containers. The small ones are called TEU, 20-foot equivalent unit. So 300,000 TEUs are 300,000 20-foot equivalent unit of domestic cargo, what you consume per year. Sorry, export cargo, not just domestic, export. Jamaica, we're at roughly 100,000, the domestic aspect, what comes here for consumption. The other 90%, or 9 out of every 10, goes for transshipment. Colombia, on the other hand, with a population of 75 million, generates 1.2 million TEUs. So they have a larger domestic base to attract more international lines. So the market is now asking for greater value added. In other words, give me a port that is integrated into an economic zone, that the value added process can take place in the same space. And this is what the international market is now asking for to be competitive. Because in the 1970s, people took advantage of what you call the offshoring. You'd package parts of your production, and it would be done in the Pacific Rim. You took advantage of cheaper labor costs. But then you found that there were some gaps. Because when your production is so far from your demand, it creates supply chain vulnerability. So the whole shift now is nearshoring. How can I move my production, my final production, a little closer to market? And Jamaica sits at that crossroad, which I'll explain in a minute. So there's a paradigm shift, ladies and gentlemen. So in other words, the context of the emerging ports, what the international market is looking for, is not a port like this is in Barbados, which is all surrounded by people. If you had to create a few thousand acres of land, I guess you'd have to bomb out some people, and you know that could be a little bit problematic. Freeport Container Terminal, which was one of the competing transshipment ports, which we are saying there's now a shift from transshipment. You can see this beautiful white earth, they actually sand reclaimed land from the sea. So there's not enough space to create that sort of value-added activity at the scale at which they need. But you can now see the whole context of Cow Cedar in Dominican Republic, with the thousands of acres behind that you could even add an airport to have an air-sea integration in that same space. This is what the market is now looking for. This you can see MIT in Panama have started a little value added in the back, but it's still not sufficient to create the type of integration that the market is looking for. This is Maryland, Cuba. You can see where Havana port was actually locked in the city. They have now created a new port with green fields surrounding. So while we are looking at probably 6,000 acres for one of the economic zones, they are now looking at 40,000 hectares. And the Mariel port is now open. But ladies and gentlemen, let me say this. Sometimes we want no other ports around us, but you can't have a hub without spokes. If I show you a bicycle wheel now and I ask you what happened if I was to remove the spokes, prayer and fasting alone could not keep that hub in place. You need some connection. This was the Frenchman de Lesseps, Ferdinand de Lesseps, who built the Suez Canal, which was opened in 1869. When de Lesseps heard of the Panama Canal, he said, piece of cake, I can do that. I built the largest canal in the world, so I just go there and need to talk to nobody. I just start to dig and dig and dig. But they did not explain certain things to de Lesseps. They did not tell him that there was a tidal difference between the Pacific Ocean, between high tide and low tide. Have you heard of tide? I'm not talking the thing where you wash with, you know. Talking the vertical rise and fall of the water. So on the Pacific Ocean, every 6 hours the tide changes. So at high tide, the difference between high tide and low tide is as much as 20 feet. They didn't tell de Lesseps that. They didn't tell him that the Panamanian hill in the middle, Ambassador, the man must dig down the country, you know. They didn't tell him that the hill in the middle was taller than the ocean. So he started to dig, and if he didn't go bankrupt, Panama would be a trench today. But on the Atlantic side, the tidal difference is less than a foot. So let me just quickly show you. And just to put in context what the Panama Canal is, I use the 3 major shortcuts in the world. The first shortcut, Malacca Straits in the South China Sea, Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. A little channel between Malaysia and Indonesia. And I'll ask you to use the word alley to remember it. An alley, a little narrow passage, or lane. Right? Alley or lane. The next one is the Suez Canal, which connects the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea. And use the words trench to remember it. It's a trench, I just dig a trench. And the Panama Canal is actually a bridge. What is the Panama Canal? It's a 2-lane highway going up a bridge into a toll road. You can picture that? But this toll don't carry tag. You can pass and stick out your $1,000 bill. It's $72 US per TEU for the toll. And this toll you have to pay before. And if they tell you 0, 10, 30 hours for your toll crossing, canal crossing, and you reach there 11 o'clock, you have to join the back of the line, and that money dead, and pay again. So in other words, the type of efficiency that the global system is looking for is not that I go to work today and I feel tired. So I party last night, so I now work tomorrow. So by Delano, I can go back the following day, you see? And you miss the crossing. It's an expensive joke. May I suggest to us that the Panama Canal is one of 3 routes to get cargo, not just in the United States in the north, but also in the south. The first is via the Suez Canal, through this channel. See that line? And when trade orientation used to move from north to south, you had no obstruction. But when you offshore started in the Far East. You're not going to hit on the west coast of the United States, but 60% of the population lives on the east coast. So this is what now happens. Let me show you. You now have to use a land bridge. The ship goes here, then you connect to the rail or the trucks to go across to the east coast. Or you can come through the Panama Canal. So there are three competing routes. One via the Suez Canal. The second is by the west coast connecting to the U.S. land bridge. And the third is via the Panama Canal. But when you go through the Panama Canal, there's a piece of U.S. legislation called the Jones Act. And the Jones Act restricts a vessel that is not registered in the United States and crewed in the United States to transship cargo over more than one port. That gave rise to the whole transshipment concept. So let's go back to that two-lane highway, going through that toll booth. When you go through the toll booth, you're going to see a house in the middle of the highway. That is how Jamaica is. When you come through the Panama Canal, you have to be an expert navigator to maneuver out of Jamaica. And if you look around our coastlines, not many navigators have been that expert. We have one of the largest collection of wrecked ships around our coastline. To tell you how centrally located we are. But location by itself cannot do it. So ladies and gentlemen, just to show you the shortcut. This is it. To get from the east coast to the west coast, if you did not use the Panama Canal, you're looking at a distance of 21,000 kilometers. Versus the Panama Canal, which is 8,000 kilometers. So you can see the value of the toll and the shortcut. So they're changing the configuration of the Panama Canal from this two-lane highway going up the bridge to adding a third lane. And that third lane is 3 times bigger than any of the existing 2 lanes. You get the picture. That is what it is. That's all. So don't make nobody blind with science. That's all it is. So we say it's a bridge, right? So Puff Shirley like to describe it as an escalator. Same thing, you go on it and it lifts you up. Get to a plateau, you come down and it throws you off. I'll put it this way. You go in at the Pacific Ocean, you go in the first lock, which is called the Miraflores lock. You lock, you close the gate. You fill the water in from the bottom. You raise the ship with 2 chambers. You know chamber? Anybody from the country know chamber? Chimney? Same thing. So you raise the ship 16 meters above sea level. Then you go into the Pedro Miguel lock and you raise it a further 10 meters. So you're 26 meters above sea level. Then you sail through the Gatun Lake and you can see they have flooded the Panama Mountain. Hello? They had to do a little bit of damage to the environment. That was one of the offsets they had to do. And then you go into the Gatun lock, you lower it, and out on the sea. So you actually take the vessel up 86 feet above sea level, down and out again. So in this reconfiguration, they did compensatory things. Panama requires 200 million liters of water to put one ship through the canal. Fresh water, so they rely on rainfall every day. So part of creating this third lane, nice music, part of creating this third lane, they are now added 600 hectares of new rainforest. 600 hectares of new rainforest. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Suez Canal, the trench. So you can see the difference. The Panama Canal is a bridge, the Suez Canal a trench, the Malacca Strait is an alley. So you can put in perspective what happens. This is Vernon Field. Vernon Field is 42 kilometers from Goat Island. And right now, our runways are short. At Norman Manley, we have about 10,000 feet of runway. And you heard the Prime Minister's announcement. In Montego Bay, we'll be adding another 450 meters. It will still just about 10,000 feet. And you need 14,000 feet to land comfortable. The A380 and the big aircrafts. So this holds potential, ladies and gentlemen, for a potential economic zone. So this is the kid, the little Goat Island, and the big one, which is Big Goat Island. But ladies and gentlemen, there's an established port here already. And the whole prospect with development is in life you get what you negotiate, not what you deserve. So when a project comes on the table for development, we can look at it. The logistics hub, ladies and gentlemen, is a concept of development that incorporates multiple economic zones. So Goat Island is not the logistics hub. And let me just point this out clearly. This is the whole concept of the London Gateway project, $7.8 billion. Well, before you add the overrun, more expensive than the Panama Canal expansion project. This is now open. And the Dubai, one of the Dubai economic zone. You can see the level of integration. And this is the whole country of Singapore with the integration of the economic zones, which is now formed the logistics hub. Let me just show you this quickly.
If you build it, they will come. One of the biggest ports in the world, and Dubai's Jebel Ali was not too long ago nothing but a sandy desert along the shallow waters of the Gulf. As Dubai rapidly developed, its ruler, Rashid bin Zayed Al Maktoum, had a vision, a port that would ensure future prosperity for the emirate. In 1976, the first dredger began to eat its way across the sand dunes, and the sea began to flow into the desert. The port of Jebel Ali was born. Captain Hassan Al-Suwadi has worked here for nearly 30 years, witnessing its transformation from provincial port to global gateway.
This was in the middle of the desert, or you can say a few kilometers away from the beach with the sand. So it's amazing.
What are the biggest challenges?
Biggest challenges is now, as the industry, the vessels becoming bigger and bigger. So we have to cope for these large vessels, huge vessels. We are talking about vessels of around 400 meters.
Bigger ships bring in bigger profits, and Jebel Ali currently fuels 20% of Dubai's GDP. The port, which could handle 70 to 80 ships when it was first built, can now receive 16,000 vessels a year and counting.
The work's going on behind me of the expansion of Terminal 2. Now, just like most of Jebel Ali, as far as the eye can see here, this land has been reclaimed. And when this is finished, it will be able to simultaneously handle 6 mega vessels.
The brand new $850 million Terminal 3 is also starting to emerge. For Jebel Ali, the sky, or in this case the sea, is no limit. How much more can you grow?
Well, this is the far biggest in the region. If you take it from Europe, Rotterdam to Singapore, really. But listen, we can build more islands, we can go up to 50 million containers capacity if we want. By far, a dream which is really, right now, doesn't exist anywhere.
A dream that for Hassan is well on its way to becoming reality.
The faster we're going, the more Dubai as a whole will become like a piece of art within the Middle East, maybe worldwide also. So that gives me a great feeling.
Sense of pride.
Yes.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going through the transitions. From Piracy, you could see where we were one of the top in the world. Then they came Transshipment. We rose to one of the regional top ports. And now Transshipment has gone down. There's the emergence of a new order. Where do we stand? A global supply chain is a network of trading partners. And logistics is a glue or the circulatory system that holds them together. So logistics implies connection, integration. It has to do with communication, transportation. It has to do with storage and change in state. And above all, efficiency, reduction of waste. So this is how we look at the moment as a country, ladies and gentlemen. Here is uptown, the high side of the boat. I'm glad the hole is not on our side. This is not a good position to be in because we all go down. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think as a country we have much time for more discussion. It's a call to action. So logistics date back over 5,000 years. The Great Pyramid, not the Pyramid of Gully, was more than 146 meters high, 17 stories, without a crane. The average stone weighing 50 tons, 6,000 tons of material with that precision. That involved logistics. Napoleon appointed the first logistics officer, Logistico. And at the time he recognized that logistics was so important to his strategy, just as important as the ammunition. And his approach, his concept was war feeding war. When you go to war, you eat the people's food. The Russians say, oh yeah, we have a better strategy. We now have the scorched earth policy. So we won't go behind you, we go ahead of you. Burn the city, poison the water, and then we drive you in. So he who have the best logistics win the war. In the 1940s, the concept of logistics was transferred from the military to the business world. And not because you say good morning, thank you, please. You're in a war. Because if you decide to open a roast yam business, and you have half pound of roast yam and you advertise all over the place, and 300 people gather and say each of them want half pound of roast yam. They won't wait for you to go and plant the yam and come back. So it's a message to us as a country. We can no longer just be samples. We have to now think the logistics behind our production. Let's learn from GraceKennedy, who have taken it internationally and have done it well. The future. Ladies and gentlemen, we have great export potential for our goats. This is an airport in France. They have removed the lawnmower and they have gone environmentally friendly, so they're using goats to mow the lawn. Can you imagine the Jamaican goats, how they can trim and cut and carve very well? They can use pedestrian crossing. Great export product, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have GraceKennedy branded goats very soon. Right, Prof. Shirley, I know you're a man of innovation. Ladies and gentlemen, logistics is not about storage. It's about avoiding waste. Anything above the minimum is waste. And this is what it is about. 7 different types of waste. We don't need to go to it. But this one defects. Do it right the first time. The future is about mega cities. Back many years ago, many of you who live on Malines Road would be considered living in the country. Because when you pass at halfway 3 o'clock, as you look over, you're in the country. Now, because of Highway 2000, those in Clarendon, so they live in Kingston. So there's hope for St. Elizabeth, where I'm from. So, ladies and gentlemen, social networking have changed the world. One of the examples I use, every minute of the day, Google receives over 2 million searches, Apple over 47,000 downloads. I met a young lady, and I use the example, about 3 months ago on a flight, and she gave me a business card. She was Vice President, Chief Listening Officer. Vice President, Chief Listening Officer. Mr. Webby, I'm sure you'll create a position like that soon. And I couldn't help but ask her, excuse me, ma'am, I don't mean to be rude, but what is it that you do? You're fasting people's business? She said, no, my job is to monitor the social networks and see what customers are saying about the business. So it's no longer in your storefront. It's no longer on your fancy website where you put how good you are. It will be on the social media. How do we infiltrate that space? That's a new space where business are being conducted. So as a country, we have to wake up to this reality. This is where we now have to look. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2005, it was about sending a text. In 2013, selfie, videos. World have changed. 90 minutes to answer an email, 90 seconds to respond to a text message. So by next year, that mobile device would have taken over the use of personal computers. So you notice the phones are getting bigger. It's all about branding. You notice the cars. The only thing that has gotten bigger is the car key. Hello, that's the brand. If you buy a Mercedes or a BMW, you can hardly hold the key now. Because that's the brand you're holding in your hand. That's the most significant part of the car. So the brand carries that value. That GraceKennedy brand carries so much goodwill. And I can tell you, I'm so impressed working with the GraceKennedy Foundation, both myself and Dr. Jaguna. Very, very professional, Uncle Jimmy. Madam Elsie, you have a great team. I'd like to commend them. So the future, ladies and gentlemen, the future doesn't lie in the job, but the people holding the job. Let me share this with you. I have a neighbor, has 2 master's degrees, 2 bachelor's degrees, multiple professional certification. One evening he came home and he called me up. Not my immediate neighbor, but I just disguised his identity. And he said, can you imagine? Today they tried to give me something at work to do, which is not on my job description. When him take out his job description and throw it on as a seat there, when we look on it, it's yellow. Long time of it. Old. I know fool it crease on my word and rub out. So sit there, someone say, where you do? I go to my union man and I sort them out. Sign a month after that, I say, what happened? Why them let me go, you know? I said, if I keep the job description. So being a good neighbor, the boy came to me, and about 2 months after, I saw a friend of mine advertise a position in the paper. I called him and I said, can I send a CV to you, one of my neighbors? Interview him to see if he has the qualities that you're looking for. So my neighbor got home, he called me the evening. I said, how's the interview? Good, man. So I said, what happened? I said, well, when he asked me 2 questions, I just stand up and say, hold on, no, shut up. I don't sweat go. Someone say, where you do? I sort them out. Someone say, what happened after? Nobody asked me no more questions. Then I say, what happened? They said, we'll call you, don't call us. So ladies and gentlemen, that attitude of entitlement which we have as a people, we have to review it. That attitude of entitlement, and I'm glad our Minister of Education is here. You'll hear him singing the same tune. He'll soon start DJ now. And ladies and gentlemen, we have to wake up and realize that international companies coming here, it is like us going abroad to look a job. It's about our certification and our competence. The degrees are good and are important, but within them, package some skills. Package some attitude inside here. So 60% of the best jobs in the next 10 years have not yet been invented. Are we prepared? Let me challenge our education system and institutions. Are we prepared to create 60% new programs within the next 10 years? We had some jobs in the past, elevator operator. Wow, this was a big job back in the time, you know. You go in an elevator, there was a man there, his job was to sit on a chair and press the floor where you're going. As I said him now, just go press it so you know, I do all kind of style and juke it, you know, so it requires certain skill. Where's that job today, ladies and gentlemen? We talk about a long distance operator. Are you a telephone operator? Work with you work with telephone, are you a telephone operator? Oh no, I'm a long distance operator. I work with foreign. encyclopedia salesman. You remember that job? You have to be a very important job, you know. To carry those big books, you have to be intelligent and look intelligent selling them. Ladies and gentlemen, I had a set at home. And I could sit beside it under supervision. Because my mother knew if she wasn't looking at cut out all the cowboy and all the pretty picture there. But ladies and gentlemen, radio actor. You remember that? Those skills? Dulcimina. When you listen to a story, man, you cry. They describe how the dog teeth long. Your dream seat at the night. Eh? Those things have now changed, ladies and gentlemen. The future is about STEM. You hear a minister talking about this again. 70% of the jobs in the future have a STEM base. So we'll no longer have the option to take out those little nice part out of it. The artistic and creative parts and put them over here and alone do them over here. Everything now will have a STEM base. So the future will now have to look differently. So whole institutions will have to change because the world has moved from information rich to information poor. From information poor to information rich, fierce competition, and new intelligences. It's no longer you sitting and you can sort all the parts of a car engine and tell us them and describe them without understanding the function of a car and how to repair it. Group intelligence. That's what we have to look at the future. So, ladies and gentlemen, the top 10 most difficult jobs to fill, skills trades. Let me suggest to you that by being a doctor, you have a skill. So it's no longer a lowly word where you tend to look at some position and say they are skill. But in every profession, you can. If you are trained to work in an office and you're an accountant, a chartered accountant, you have a skill. So we have to know, what skill do we bring? The anything thing can't work in the future. We can't carry it in this dispensation to make a difference. It does not add value.
Welcome to another video from explainingthefuture.com. Today, some people have jobs such as web designer that would have been difficult to even explain to people 20 years ago. In this video, I therefore thought I'd present my top 10 of potential new future jobs. At 10, we have in-store 3D fabricator, or somebody who uses 3D printers to copy and manufacture things in retail locations on demand. At 9, we next have domestic robotician, or somebody who supplies and maintains robots that can help out in the home. Talking of which, at 8, we have AI trainer, or somebody who helps young artificial intelligences to understand the world and to become sentient. Turning to things medical, at 7 we have Transhumanist Surgeon, or a doctor who upgrades people's bodies to give them beyond human capabilities. Closely related at 6, we then have Nanobot Immune System Augmenter, or somebody who cures disease or otherwise improves people's health by introducing nanobots into their bloodstream. In a similar vein, at 5 comes Human DNA Programmer, or somebody who cures disease or otherwise alters the human body by reprogramming a patient's DNA. As a final medical entry, at 4 we then have Cosmetic Bioprinter, or somebody who makes people look younger or otherwise changes their appearance by removing existing flesh and bioprinting on new skin. Turning to future food production, at 3 we have Vertical Farmer, or somebody who raises crops and rears animals in skyscrapers in the middle of cities. Rising to 2, our penultimate entry is Space Elevator Attendant, or somebody who ferries people and cargo into space in a lift carriage that climbs a very long cable to an orbital platform. And finally at 1, we have Climate Engineer, or somebody who uses geoengineering to control global warming by constructing solar sails to shade the Earth, building greenhouse gas filtration plants, or introducing algae into the oceans.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we see where world has shifted from elevator attendant to now looking at space elevator attendant. So the future will be complex about careers, will be a portfolio of micro careers. Are we ready for this, ladies and gentlemen? Are we ready for this? Our thinking have to change. So why I'm stressing this? Our greatest asset is not Go Thailand. And our ports, our greatest asset, our human resources. But so if we can repackage this asset in a way, it can bring Jamaica the greatest value. We know crowdfunding on the internet. We have some type of crowdfunding that we used to do, which is not really appropriate. You know, the lotto scam, but we have different type of crowdfunding. We have done well in that, but we need now to look at the new type of crowdfunding. There are some new emerging areas. So, ladies and gentlemen, how do we stand out from the crowd? From piracy to transshipment, Jamaica's journey to becoming a global logistics hub. A logistics hub is a concept of development that incorporates multiple economic zones. And our country have envisioned 16 such economic zones, of which Goat Island, that project could be the first and an important element of such project. Sorry, what's happening here? Oh. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's no longer the common exam that the fish, the elephant, the bird, the monkey will do. The examiner is confused. For fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. Please climb that tree. So the bird was the first in the tree, but he failed because he flew. He should have climbed. Everybody's a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid. Albert Einstein. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been informed, we've been enlightened, we've been entertained, and Dr. Pinnock has provoked thought, he has raised issues, and I think he has also stretched our imagination. This is the time when you get to ask him to share with you the questions that you have, the concerns which you may have, the thoughts which you may have, and especially for the young people, what has his speech today brought home to you in terms of your futures? We're going to have question time now, and I'm going to ask either Dr. Pinnock or Dr. Ajayuna Guna to respond. And we have our microphones set up, and what we'll do is we will ask the people who want to ask questions to come up. We'll take 4 questions at a time, and then we'll get the responses, and we'll continue along that vein. And we'll accommodate as many questions as our lecturers can take. I think that we would try for 8 to 10 questions. So please introduce yourself and ask your question. And as I say, we'll take 3 or 4 questions and then ask for a response. Fine. First person here.
Good evening, Dr. Pinnock. It's a pleasure being here. And needless to say, the lecture was quite illuminating and enjoyable. I want to particularly greet each and every one of us because we are distinguished, Mr. Webby, in our own rights. Okay, I'm Rudolph Ellis. university philosophy student. Now, just a simple question, Dr. Pinnock. Because there are many that could be asked. Notwithstanding, there are...
Ask it, please.
Notwithstanding that there are issues attending to the question I'm about to ask, which is this: is there or could there be some more consideration given to those people who are not privileged for one reason or the other, especially the poorest among in our society, to provide for them from the top down an avenue where they can see, or as it were, experience a piece of the Jamaican dream? Because more often than not, the Jamaican dream. So the question is simply this: is there consideration, or could there be further consideration to be include the poor in our society?
Can we please just hear the question? Yes. Please, thank you. Mr. Ellis, can you frame your question as quickly as possible and as succinctly as possible?
Could there be more consideration be extended to the poorest in our society who might not otherwise be privileged to benefits deriving from the transshipment or the hub in that respect? Provide them some opportunity.
All right, thank you very much. Can I ask the questioners to come with their questions, to state them quickly and as clearly and as succinctly as possible?
Yeah. Right here.
Mr. Jain?
My name is Sushil Jain. I am a consultant. My question is, taking a specific example of a logistic hub, successful logistic hub, whether it is Rotterdam or Dubai or Singapore, can we get some statistics as to what kind of activities take place, how many people are employed there, how many of which type of skills people are employed, what kind of net revenue comes to those countries? Because what we hear so far in all education given and advertisements is that you will have this, that and the other, but there are no numbers, no details. These are just dreams. Second, very specific. Even if you don't have them now, you can release them as a part of education campaign later on. Number two, we hear from different spokesmen, here, there, and everybody, whether this minister or that spokesman, who is really in charge of the total central logistic planning for Jamaica at this time, and who is the spokesman for that?
Thank you very much, Mr. Jain. Next questioner, next person.
Dr. Pinnock.
Yes.
Just right here. Right down here.
Yes, sir.
Just to ask, Dr. Pinnock mentioned the establishment of 16 economic zones, and I would like to know what the projected cost of those zones would be, and where is it envisioned that the capital resources would come from.
Thank you. Any other questions immediately?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. Hello? Okay. Yes. My question is, for Dubai and Singapore, is it the case that these countries are dictatorship, why decisions are made promptly to either do something or not do something? And in our case, we are here arguing over making a decision.
All right, thank you. I'm going to ask Dr. Pinnock and Dr. Ajay Guna to respond. No?
All right. Thank you. Well, you said it was a simple question, but the statement longer than the question, the first one. All right, don't worry. That's okay. consideration of the benefits to the poor and information. And in fact, this is why the Logistics 101 course was developed between the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, the Caribbean Maritime Institute. It's been endorsed by the Port Authority, the Ministry of Education, the Heart Trust NTA. This program so far is a 3-hour course that we take to anywhere. As long as you have a group, 30 people or more, we take it to you free of cost. So far, we have sensitized over 10,000 people. And that's our contribution. So for you, sir, which community you like, we can take it to you. Even to Pedro Keys. Because we have access to both, so we can go there to you if you want. That's the first one. So it's a dialogue. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me just say this. The paradigm has shifted. This project will be driven by foreign direct investment. And I think this was made quite clear. Because under the IMF situation where it is right now, we cannot access more loan. So, by packaging the business, you would have seen in the news about the whole proposal with the Goat Island. The first economic zone that was packaged, which is now before Cabinet, is the Caymanas Economic Zone, which is the first project, 200 acres out of a 1,700 acre. That is there. The investors who have bid on this project, quite clear, sending a signal that Jamaica has some value. So if we don't see it, others have seen it. You'd have seen in the media where Professor Shirley have signaled that the port operators who have bid on this project are the largest in the world. So they would have seen some value in Jamaica. But ladies and gentlemen, we start to kill the project before it starts. And we understand we're enthusiastic people. But as I said in the lecture, we get what we negotiate in life, not what we deserve. So, and I'm afraid that people that are coming to set up their project is not, you're Jamaican, so we're going to take you. But you are skilled and qualified Jamaican, so we'll take you. So if you notice, the focus on the lecture had to do with that change, that attitude and mind change. That rights culture has to go. Ladies and gentlemen, it cannot help us in the future. So we can't sit on the corner and complain. We can do something about it. Let's make that change within me. The second one, so Barry, what type of jobs? No, what types of jobs? Oh my gosh, who wrote this? And statistics, right, in another logistics hub that we can draw on. It depends on the type of industries that we attract. Because different hubs tend to have a specialize in different type of industries. It all depends what we attract. And naturally, maybe some of the industries that will be attracted to are the ones right now that are not so high energy driven. Because we know we have a challenge with our energy costs right now, which we are looking at. So it's difficult to give a prescription because a logistics hub is a complex project. And if there was a clear prescription to say that the government could say do this or do that, but I'm sure members of the government are here. Projects have been presented to Cabinet. They are confidential projects. They cannot be disclosed to the public until that appropriate time where the private investors can now reveal their project. But ladies and gentlemen, the entrepreneurial spirit among us can see opportunities and move on it. Right. About the Dubai and Singapore with the dictatorship and why. Ladies and gentlemen, our ability to reason and rationalize is a strength and a weakness. But for 40 years, we're at a place where we now have a debt to GDP ratio, 140 to 1. And if you strip down at $1, probably 30 cents of money we collect from abroad from people and put it there and say it's earnings. So we're in a position, ladies and gentlemen, we have no more room for discussion, but action. It's a time for action. The economy, the countries are structured differently. Jamaica has an opportunity, and a timely opportunity, because I said the whole concept of nearshoring, that shifting, where countries are looking for centers close to the US. We talk about the location of Jamaica coming through the Panama Canal. Our English-speaking base, because this was one of the challenges with offshoring. When the goods would go to the distant lands, and you find that there were time zone difference, when you had to make changes to your production plan, it was difficult to communicate these changes. By virtue of us being English-speaking, we have certain inherent strengths that we can capitalize on, ladies and gentlemen. We have some weaknesses, but if you focus on your weakness, you never overcome them. We have to look to your strengths.
All right, thank you.
Yes,
sorry, yes.
If I may add a little spin to what Dr. Pinnock has just said. I think one of the things I have discovered in this country is that we do too much talking. And little or no action. If you understudy the various development plans that has been developed in Jamaica over the years, we have some excellent plans. But when it comes to implementation, it is a serious problem. In addition to that, the Caribbean Maritime Institute and the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce have taken it upon themselves to educate an average Jamaican about what logistics hub or logistics is all about. This particular project is one of a kind that we are seeing for the first time in Jamaica. As indicated in Dr. Pinnock's presentation, logistics is an economic activity that brings into play or that connect other economic spheres or other economic activities. And I will give a few examples. Our question is asked of Dubai. If we look at Dubai and what the logistics hub has done to that country, and we see how it has metamorphosized into other economic aspects of spheres in the country, we can begin to imagine what this will do to Jamaica. Presently, Dubai receives over 250,000 visitors per day. You can imagine what that is for tourism,
20% of GDP.
which represents 20% of Dubai's GDP. Now, you imagine what the other activities that are connected or that connect with the logistics hub are bringing to the country. In an interview yesterday morning on Smile Jamaica, we indicated that, one, there is going to be a lot of transformation starting from Kingston. In fact, we begin to see those transformations now, especially in downtown Kingston. And I made a suggestion that we want to see Oceana Hotel reopen as a hotel. And if there is any proposal to sell or to divest Forum, I will say let us put it on hold. What we should be doing now is for structural engineers to begin to examine what use we can put to that facility. Both Oceana Hotel and Forum can employ close to 200 Jamaicans. Gentlemen asked about the poor. You only make yourself to be poor if you choose to be. This is an opportunity for us. It appalls me when I look at the work that MIIC is doing And I'm not seeing the contribution, although I don't know if it is underground, from the Ministry of Tourism. From the private security companies in Jamaica, let us look back at the tourism industry. When we developed this industry, we never knew that we would face that demon called crime and harassment. Logistics and tourism share the same definition, the movement of people. With logistics come large number of people. How are we going to manage this large number of people when they come to us? We need to begin to put things in place. Private security company, the Ministry of Security need to come in place and work with MIIC. It's no question of one ministry. Which ministry is responsible? This is a Jamaican project. And that is why educational institutions like the Caribbean Maritime Institute, the University of West Indies, Northern Caribbean University, we are now collaborating to educate everybody in the various communities in Jamaica.
Thank you very much. Just to emphasize the fact that we do have an audience that has been tuned into this lecture by YouTube, and they've actually sent questions.
Yes.
So we have 2 questions. I think in a way I've dealt with one of them, but I just want to say that one of the concerns was what skills or skilled personnel will be needed once the transshipment port or the logistics hub is established, and what impact will this have on the growth of Jamaica's economy? And the second question, how does Jamaica guard against a world economic downturn with the logistics hub? And what would be the cost benefit of the PBPA, not sure what that is, being a biosphere versus a transshipping hub, which is more sustainable? Not sure what PBPA is. Portland Bight, okay, thanks. All right, can we take 2 more questions? Yes?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is David Samuel and I attend the Wilmot's Boys School. Dr. Pinnock, in your edifying lecture, you emphasized the importance of education in these futuristic careers. Do you agree with a revision of the education system which better encourages the creativity of students in this future logistics hub? Thank you.
I'm Dr. Susan Lowe of Online Counseling Jamaica, and I thought that was an excellent presentation, sir. We should have been the logistics hub of the Caribbean since the days of the Spaniards, but we kept throwing away that advantage. And I loved your statement, you get what you negotiate, not what you deserve. So, in view of that, projects do remain confidential to a point. But when was there actual, true national debate on this thing? In other words, not the chat, as Dr. Ajaguna says. We don't want chat, I'm talking debate. How long will the plans remain confidential, especially regarding our ability to negotiate what we're doing with our environment around this project that we definitely do need? And are our national laws to count for nothing in this negotiation?
That's a national law, yeah?
I will take one more question from the floor.
Hello. Thank you for that presentation. My name is Daniel Andrade from the Jamaica Environment Trust. From your presentation, one gets the impression that Goat Islands is the selected area for the port. And I would really like to know if there has been any sort of look analysis at other alternative sites for ports. If there have, I would like to know what's the justification for using Goat Islands, given that its protected area status and so on.
All right, we'll get the responses now.
Hello.
Sorry. Yes, sorry. Yes, Dr. Sangster.
Dr. Pinnock, greetings, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen. You mentioned foreign direct investment. That means that the Chinese have waved $1.5 billion in front of us. We are basically potentially doing the same, making the same mistake that we've made with the bauxite industry. What do I mean by that? The bauxite industry, we sell bauxite digging from the ground and it's shipping abroad. But Jamaica has not invested in the plant, in the business, so that in fact, when one of the plants collapses, basically we have no background or backative. I'm saying that there should be some clear Jamaican participation in the investment. Otherwise, it's simply money coming in, and the Chinese will develop what they want to do. And when they're ready to leave, they can leave. We must participate specifically. That's what I'm saying, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the first question looked at what skills persons will need. And I'm happy you started that way, because I thought I'd push the whole idea of skills, because skill sets are transferable. When you're trained for a job, when that job goes, you're finished. When you have skill sets in your package, I said good attitude. 70% of what employers are looking for, you didn't learn it at school. You're looking for your attitude, how punctual you are, how helpful. These are the type of things that count. And in fact, people will employ you without the skill and train you for it, as long as you have the right attitude. And let me say this, this has been one of the strengths of the Filipino worker in even the whole shipping industry. Philippines account for 20% of all the seafarers in the world. And the remittances from seafarers only contributes to 15% of the Philippines' GDP because of the attitude of the people. Jamaicans, when we are lined up with a little discipline, we have excellent attitude. And I can show you a prime example. Look at those gentlemen and ladies in that white suit over there. You can see, we don't joke with them. And what I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, it can be done. It's a collaborative effort, and this is not something that can come from cabinet. A lot of the failure we have suffered, ladies and gentlemen, have been because of all of us. The them culture has to go. I know I have a responsibility in this. I have no other passport. And at this age, I should be coming out of the cold, not going in. So I intend to make this thing work. And I want, in life, the 80-20 rule work. 20% of the people do 80% of the work. So if we're going to sit and wait for 100, it won't happen. But if the 20% of us can move with enough determination and zeal, this country will be better. And I'm determined it's going to be better. The impact on the Jamaica's economy. Let me use a simple example. When Alpart started the bauxite company in name, you have some people came from abroad. They start to set up the plant and say, boy, Name hot in below sea level. They look up and see a nice hill, Mandeville. They went up there and start searching around for houses to rent. People say, what? Some people come looking houses to rent, US dollars. People start to build houses. Shopping centers start to go up. Cinemas, all type of industry, even backward industry, all kind of industry start to go up. And what happened? This was to support the development. Not too long, people from abroad, oh, we can retire in Mandeville, it's now an emerging town. Before you look, you have a city. That is what development can do. So you don't necessarily have to go work in a man's factory. By virtue of the opportunity, the spin-off. One of the richest men in the Silicon Valley did not make his money from the ICT industry. He made his money from selling food. So there are opportunities for us. These people need to go to school. They need different amenities, and you just think about it, and it multiplies. The cost benefit of Portland Bight. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a process. First, the project has to be on the table, because once I went on a program with Simon Koskill, and he was asking me to comment on the Goat Island situation. I said, Simon, with due respect, show me the proposal and I'll comment on it. But we can speculate from now till the sun comes to roost. Remember, investors don't have to come here. They have options. They don't have to come here. They're not doing us a favor. It's an opportunity, and it's a business opportunity, so it has to make sense for them. So what I'm saying, this process of engagement, you have to go through the environmental impact assessment. The whole process is there. And you know something, ladies and gentlemen? I've been to a few of the meetings, and I see very few people turn up when there's a town hall meeting for environmental impact. Very few people turn up. Because, with due respect, if you want to hide something from Jamaicans, put it in writing. But after everything, we're ready to block road and call for justice. But, ladies and gentlemen, let's work with the process. It can be a process of negotiation. Let me even speak in my capacity as a fisherman too. There's little or no fish at Goat Island. I think it will be a perfect opportunity for negotiation. To create a big enough saltwater fish farm that we're not going tilapia, we're going yellowtail and red-tail snapper, red snapper. That the fishermen can eat and full their stomach. We can now set up a cold chain facility. We can get the fish into the hotels and now even export to China, to the world. When we do that, ladies and gentlemen, we can now create a sustainable industry. As it was said at one meeting, a hungry man can do more damage to the environment than development can. Yeah? Yes. The next, the education system to introduce creativity. And I must commend the Minister of Education. Sir, I think you're a very bold man. You have made some steps, and we are here to back you and to support the changes. But when you have a system that you have 20 students in a school, and 100 teachers, and the ministry can't shift them to another school. We have to change that system first. And this is what is now being addressed. But ladies and gentlemen, if you look at the change in the curriculum somewhat, you can see there's more room for creativity, more room for critical thinking. And these are the skills, not to say 2 1s, 2 2 2s, 4 2 3 6, and we can say good, but to understand how you apply it. That when you have 2 marbles and your last one, you only have 1 leaf. So those are the skills that we have to develop for the future. So, Mr. Calabar, I commend you in that. And is that Sorry. I was about to say JC, you now look at Uncle Jimmy. So. Thank you, Ulmers. Sorry. All right, you can have me outside for that. I'll buy you a drink. National debate on the logistics hub. It is time that is forthcoming. Let's have a project on the table and pass and get something. And then we have something to debate about. Because we have constantly been engaging in debates. But as you said, Dr. Jaguna said, it's time for action. Let's get something and we can debate something in reality. Not debate what we should do. And sing by the rivers of Babylon. There they sat down, and we look back in the past. We have to look in the future. So, what is word?
Alternatives to Goat Island. Alternatives to
alternative site, thank you. I don't know who wrote this here, not me. Yes. Well, when you listen, you know, a lot of people look, and this is a great country. Because if you go in the market and you talk about ice hockey and you just put up a key, everybody can comment and tell you what to do. I see a lot of people perform, them see a little water, they say a port can go here. What it takes to create a port is different. There's an established port there. So it's a matter of negotiation. When the project is put on the table, you go through all the environmental consideration, you look at the coal, right now at 44 cents a kilowatt, we cannot continue with our electricity. Our oil bill is more than our export. And ladies and gentlemen, the story is told of the man who went to his girlfriend's house one night, and her phone rang while she was in the bathroom, and he answered it. When he looked at it, he saw JPS. He was, why JPS calling you now at this time of the night, 10:30 in the night? 10 minutes after, phone ring again, NWC. So the man came a little curious, him go ring her phone. Rent. So ladies and gentlemen, at $1.40, at $1.40 to 1, all right, ladies and gentlemen, at $1.40 to 1, all the mateys them come together and say, well, lend us any more money. The IDB, the World Bank, the IMF, all them come together. And they give us 7 years in which to reduce $1.40 to 95 cents to 1. How are we going to do it? We're going to contract. But the ladies will tell us if we just a contract and have no baby to show, it's not a good sign. It's a painful experience. So ladies and gentlemen, they have embraced the logistics hub as a growth strategy. So whatever we can do to make this thing work, ladies and gentlemen, the growth strategy, you can't contract yourself into growth. So we have to grow ourselves. So we can contract, and you try to lose some pounds. The first 10 pounds is easy, but you try the next 10 pounds. It takes harder work. You have to go exercise and do some things. You can't just imagine and it goes away. Or look at the exercise equipment. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to grow ourselves out of the debt. Local investors. That 50% rule is important. It's more important for us to get 50% of $1 billion than 100% of 1,000. We must be prepared to take a slice of a bigger pie than having a big pie. It's an opportunity when you know the local waters, local investors, and just pull some example to the hat. The Taras and so on, I see them collaborating with big 3PL companies because you know the local territory. You can now lock down that market because you know instead of having 100,000 pieces of item coming through, you can have 1 million pieces coming through. Just the concept with the minibus, the coaster bus, and the robot taxi. You know, can use a bigger vehicle to accommodate more per unit. That's the concept. It's an opportunity. It's no longer about our passports. We know we feel very nationalistic. We could not afford Air Jamaica anymore. But ladies and gentlemen, we can do more with that money when we take it and educate our people who can now do greater investment that we can now. We don't need to own the airline to do that. So the times have changed. The paradigm have shifted. And our mentality have to change with that. Which is the FDI.
That's the same one.
Right.
That's the same one.
That's the same one. Thank you.
Right. All right. Now, we're going to have one last set of questions. I have 2 questions from YouTube listeners, and I will just read those first. The first one says, will Brand Jamaica benefit at this stage? Can Jamaicans across the worldwide diaspora benefit? And the second one, is it possible to distinguish how the Goat Island component will fit into the wider hub? Could there not be logistically superior alternative sites, such as Fort Augusta? Those are the 2. I'm reading them even though they may have been partially answered, because I want the people who are listening to know that we do receive and value their contribution. Can we get the questions from the audience now? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Good evening, everyone. In the context of a lecture sponsored by GraceKennedy, I think it's important for us to just pause and consider the decision-making process that a GraceKennedy goes through when it's given, and quite likely it receives these on a daily basis, fancy looking and sounding presentations, full of razzmatazz, a great sell. A good GraceKennedy manager knows that he or she has to ask the difficult, the tough questions, and has to put the salesperson on the spot. So in that vein of trying to understand, Dr. Pinnock, ministers who are sitting here, etc., do you consider it appropriate for the citizens of Jamaica to ask and have answered difficult questions about the costs and the benefits, not just in monetary terms, but also in quality of life terms, in the impact on the environment terms, etc., etc. Is it appropriate and desirable for us to be asking difficult questions and getting the answers to them? Now, quickly, the residents of Port Maria quite likely would have been sold upon the development that they heard would come from new bridge, new this, new that. They didn't factor in the flooding. The residents of Caribbean Terrace, no doubt, back in the day, were sold on the good development sale. They didn't factor in the flooding. So that we don't repeat the errors of development planning that does not take into account and does not tell the nation the truth about the costs and the potential impacts. Are we going to repeat the same errors? Should we repeat the same errors in this process as we try to get a logistics hub? Should we go for coal? Should we go for coal and ignore what we see in China because we tell ourselves it's cheaper? Should we go for flattening the Goat Islands, even if perhaps the flooding implications, the impact on fisheries, we don't even know the truth? Who shall we rely upon to just tell us in plain English what the truth of the impacts could be so that we can make informed decisions? Thank you.
Dr. Pinnock, yes. Congratulations on your lecture. I was a little puzzled, however, by your answer to one of the questions. You asked about some specifics, and you gave the impression that you'd see who would turn up. Let's see what kind of industries would attract here. These things would vary from hub to hub. They might come to Dubai, but they might not come here, and so on. My question is this: has any analysis been done of the hubs offered by the Dominican Republic, Mariel in Cuba, Panama, which is not just expanding the canal, but expanding a wide range of supporting services? Has any analysis of these places been done to determine where Jamaica has areas of competitive advantage and therefore try to attract direct investment to these areas rather than, if I haven't misunderstood you, seeing who turns up?
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Dr. Pinnock, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The person before me asked exactly what I wanted to ask, and in a very well put way. We are responsible citizens of this country, and we need some good, sound answers to the question. Now, you started your talk with Noah's Ark, and you spoke of a company that had a chief listing officer. And I would like to ask whether or not, maybe I shouldn't ask, maybe what I'd like to suggest is that our minister, who is here, and the people who are promoting and responsible for the implementation of the logistics hub do in fact employ a chief listing officer, because we really want to know what is happening, and I think that as we are the citizens of this country, as was said before, we must be a part of the decision-making process. And I think our government must really listen. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to take 2 more questions, please, 2 more. And we'll close off after that. One over there.
Good evening. I understand that the logistics hub is for the future, but I don't think we have thought about it enough to maximize its potential and efficiency. With the logistics hub, we basically focus on one problem and one problem only. What about focusing on problems such as energy, for example? Have we thought about probably tidal wave energy with the outgoing and incoming ships to the island? Have we thought about not just tourism, but globalization on a whole, and how our market would affect the world? So, have we thought about that? Yes.
Thank you. What school are you from? Would you share? Arden High School.
Arden High.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm from the University of the West Indies, and we're currently doing a project on negotiation.
Okay.
Now, earlier you stated that if you are skilled, we will take you. What are the systems or processes that are going to be put in place to ensure that skilled and qualified Jamaicans will gain employment in not just the lower tier jobs, but also the higher tier jobs? One of my colleagues will also like to post a question.
My question is for Mr. Pinnock. In your expert opinion, what are the challenges and opportunities that current organizational structures of our government ministry pose for the successful implementation of the logistics hub? And I'm asking you please to make specific reference to MIIC and Transport Works and Housing. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. This is the last set of questions, and I just ask Drs. Pinnock and Ajanguna to respond.
All right. YouTube, Brand Jamaica. The benefits from the diaspora. Let me say this, you can see more and more members of the diaspora are now investing in Jamaica. And it is not as if a lot is not happening in Jamaica. Because even within the local industry, there's a great move afoot for modernization by Kingston Wharves and its shareholders. I'm sure they're looking at a major upgrading project, which will now create a new interface The brand Jamaica has to go beyond sports. It has to go beyond a feeling where we can now convert this to make some money to live. And I think this is an opportunity for us to do this. It's an opportunity for us to use this integrated platform, this integrated complex platform to find niche markets. It's an opportunity for us, even in agriculture, to move up the chain. Not just to sell the yam with the soil on it, but to sell pre-cooked packaged yam that's ready for microwave. To do the same for other products, not just to sell our ginger, but how can you dry the organic ginger now, sell it for higher price, value added, logistics added to the various components. And it's the same thing happening in our tourism. How can we find new niche markets? It's not just about the mass market, but we have seen more and more, based on my interaction, I'm seeing more and more members of the diaspora. Professor Ying is here, can tell you, people are investing in this country. And especially since the National Debt Exchange, financial institutions are looking for something to do with their money now. It's a great opportunity for us to kickstart more businesses. And it's time for us to take some risk. Because that era of the high interest rate where we can sit down and put it and earn 25%, I think that is now behind us. So we have to do some things. How does Goat Island fit into the whole logistics hub? Fort Augusta. I spoke of scale and scope of an economic zone. An economic zone is a jazzed-up free zone because the World Trade Organization have moved up by 2015. We should not have any more free zones because they connote export subsidy. So whereas there's a place for the expansion of Fort Augusta, and this is no package, but there's also a place for a bigger context that is now focused on value-added, global value-added chain that can now be integrated into thousands of acres of greenfield project. We do not have the greenfield in Kingston, just like I showed you Barbados. It was difficult to clean out some of the areas because we'll have some challenges getting rid of people. We can't do that. Difficult citizens of Jamaica to ask difficult questions. They have always been asked, and it's encouraged. But ladies and gentlemen, it's difficult, and let me just say this, I'm not a politician, but to just speak on their behalf, it's difficult. Some of the questions we ask, and sometimes I think they need some crystal balls to answer it. Because when you're going to ask them what's going to happen next 10 years, we're in a globalized economy, where there are multiple things happening in a different direction. So, we're not seeing something happening here, but you see 40 pieces of legislation passed last year through the House. That is part of the platform in helping to create this. You have seen where the Port Authority have now announced that the port community system is now coming. That is the global platform, the IT platform to now integrate the industry, how we can now know what is happening overseas and to send that information through the chain. So there are different things that are happening, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe the pace at which we'd like it to happen is not fast enough, yes? Maybe because we're not putting the money, we have to now attract the investors. And things have started, ladies and gentlemen. It has started. So we're not at ground zero. Remember, we already have established facilities. We're not starting something from scratch. We already have some facilities in place. We're repositioning them to take greater advantage of where the market is going. And yes, the analysis of other countries. Various missions have been made to Panama, and in fact the Panamanian ambassador is here. He's a sitting member of the subcommittee on education and training. Very enthusiastic, because every ship that passes through the canal to come to Jamaica is a vote for Panama, is a vote for Jamaica. So it suits us to work in partnership and not competing and cutting each other's throat. For Domre, for Cuba, already I spoke of the advantage of the English language, which we can use. And we are better located than anybody. So this is an opportunity for us, ladies and gentlemen, that if we can only get it implemented, which is what we need to look at, it can make the difference. You talk about the EIA, right? And ladies and gentlemen, we are now in an age where we can do a lot of simulation. We no longer have to just guess and spell. At the Caribbean Maritime Institute, we have multiple simulators. We can put even on the simulator and tell you the impact of what a tidal wave could cause on such a port and so on. These things go into the whole environmental impact assessment. For once, ladies and gentlemen, we need to work together and trust the process. We have to do that. And the citizens to be part. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this. For the first time, I'm encouraged by the level of collaboration I'm seeing between the universities, the tertiary institutions, and the Heart Trust NTA. Dr. Wesley is here. And I can tell you, Heart is now repositioning themselves to look at the new and emerging skills era. Between the Ministry of Education, of Labor, Heart Trust NTA, they are looking at developing a labor market information intelligence system. In other words, how can we look at what the needs are? Retire some of the training for the, and this is one of the mandates from the minister, retire some of the investment in areas that we have been oversupplied and look at new emerging areas. And you will see more and more things happening in these areas, ladies and gentlemen. Things are happening, but sometimes, because for so long we have not done anything, sometimes we fail to see the efforts. And if we can applaud them and build on them rather than just tear them down, I think we can make some positive moves. Yes. Right, focus on energy, another area, this one. Right, the energy question is a good question. We have lots of tertiary institutions in Jamaica. And it is time, the challenge is for us to get more into applied research. How can we take some of these papers we are writing and put them into action to solve some of the nation's problems? Ladies and gentlemen, at 44 cents US per kilowatt hour, we are uncompetitive. We cannot continue there. So we can debate that we can find the cleanest form of energy, but let's move to something that costs less. We have to do that. We have to debate. We have to go through the environmental impact analysis. The proposal was only just presented. Allow it to go through the process, ladies and gentlemen, and it will receive due consideration. The skill sets. We spoke of this already. Look back within you, the package that comes in your degree, in your certificate. What is it that you have beyond that? What is your attitude like? Because when you put a PhD in a bad attitude, I don't think anybody wants that to employ. So many of us, we have a degree and we can't do this and we can't do that. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this. To those of us even in school, it's about teamwork. As a team, sometimes you have to carry the garbage bin. At home, not because you get a degree now, you can't carry the garbage no more. So this was specialization in labor. We are allergic to hard work. We have to get rid of that mentality. The productivity culture has to now look within. And what is current organizational structure? Ladies and gentlemen, we are in transition. We are in transition as a country. Just like a company, you have an organizational structure that caters for a time. Things are changing. And I'll say when investors come, I don't think they want to deal with 10 ministries. We have to now look at the bureaucracy. And I think it is time the process has started. So to say it's a matter for the future, that's about simplifying the structure. GraceKennedy have looked and reinvented themselves many a times. This is why I started with Uncle Jimmy's book. Roads diverging. Sometimes you have to make some hard decisions. In management, you have to sometimes cut at the top. We have to take a hard look at how we operate for the future.
All right, if I may add the last spin to that. citizens' participation in the process. As Dr. Pinnock indicated earlier on, the Caribbean Maritime Institute is currently running the Logistics 101 training across the island. In addition to that, we've been having a series of symposia. We had one at the University of West Indies, which was in collaboration with Mona School of Business. The essence of that symposium was to sensitize the local populace and to make them contribute to the debate. The question I want to ask is this: what are you doing in your own community to be part of this process? Organize a 101 lecture, we will come to you. Organize symposium in your area, we will come to you and share with you. And I must thank the minister here that there is none of this symposium that we organized that he's not present. So it's a minister who is ready to listen to you and who is ready to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we just give all our authors, our lecturers, a big hand? Thank them very much, not least of all for their stamina. And I'm going to ask Mrs. Mahfood to come forward to do the presentation. Would you, excuse me, sorry, but we are strapped for time, and we did have, time allocated for questions. Could you speak with Dr. Pinnock afterwards, please? All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
The process, that's it. Allow the environmental process to go through.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I'm glad you've had a great discourse today. That's a goal of our lecture series. We want debate, we want discourse, and we hope that it continues after today. I would like to invite Mr. Webby, GraceKennedy's Group CEO, to come forward to make the following presentations. You know the saying that behind every great man there's an even more amazing woman? I don't know if you know that version, but that's my version. And Mrs. Ajaguna and Mrs. Pinnock must be amazing women to keep up with the demands that we have placed on your husbands over the past 6 months. They did an excellent job, and you must be very proud. And I would like to invite you both to come forward to accept a small token of our appreciation. So Mrs. Ajaguna, you can come first, and then... You're next.
He's going to sing? No.
Lower. You can lower the... Thank you. And Mrs. Pinnock, I'd like to invite you forward. Thank you. Dr. Ajaguna, thank you so much for playing a key role in ensuring that today was a great success. You were always accessible, you were quick to respond to requests, and excellent to work with. We thank you so much for your partnership in this process, and we'd like to invite you forward to present you with a gift. Thank you. Dr. Fritz Pinnock. I describe him as a gentle giant. He's such a humble and kind man, and it was such a pleasure working with him on this project. Dr. Pinnock, you did an excellent job this evening, and we're honored to have you as a 2014 Grace Kennedy Lecturer, and we'd like to present you with this. The Grace Kennedy Foundation has been providing tertiary scholarships for over 30 years. We're very excited to announce that as of September of this year, Dr. Pinnock, we need you back down there. As of September of this year, we'll be offering a scholarship to a student studying logistics at the Caribbean Maritime Institute. At this time, I'd like to invite Professor Gordon Shirley, who's chairman of the board of Grace Kennedy Limited, to come forward and make this presentation to Dr. Pinnock. Dr. Are you going to please join in with? You can stay to the right. Finally, the goal of the lecture is to stimulate, you don't need to go too far, because it's to stimulate discussion and debate, which I was happy about tonight, and learning. We're excited to announce that the book will be used as a resource book for the newly established Cape Logistics and Supply Chain course that will be implemented in the near future. I would like to invite the Minister of Education, the Honorable Ronald Thwaites, to come forward, and then I would also like, this is our kind of photo opportunity. So I'm going to ask Professor Elsa Lirani to come forward and to present the books. Thank you. One slide, little. But just a minute. Professor Shirley and Mr. Webby, I'd also like you to come forward for this photograph, please. Oh, just to add that both gentlemen are actually writing the syllabus for the Cape Logistics course. So that's awesome. Thanks again to all the persons who have contributed to making this lecture a great success. Would you like me to just invite Fred? And I'd like to invite Mr. Fred Kennedy, who's a director of the Grace Kennedy Foundation, to come forward and give the vote of thanks. Thank you, everyone.
Not so little. Good evening. I appreciate you must all be hungry, so I will be very short. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and all respectfully, all protocols observed. We anticipated a high interest in this evening's lecture, as the topic, you know, has been covered extensively in the media over the last several months, and one which has significant implications for Jamaica and the region for its growth and development. So we're grateful for your overwhelming response today. The lecture has been at best 6 months in the making, and the Grace Kennedy Foundation has a number of people to thank for their assistance in staging this successful lecture tonight. Dr. Pinnock, I'm a former teacher and principal, and I was sitting there saying to myself, I wonder, wouldn't it have been lovely if all our history classes had been taught the way you taught today? And I think, sir, you met all the criteria for an A+ presentation. Yeah. You had anecdotes, you had humor, scholarship, and pacing, all the stuff that we look for in a first-rate presentation. So we're indebted to Dr. Fritz Pinnock for his erudite presentation, and to the co-author, Dr. Ibrahim Ajaguna, for his role in the research and writing of the lecture. They presented a comprehensive historical view of the shipping and transshipment industry. I was going to say since the time of the British conquest, but it's since the time of Noah. They went further back than 1655. Provided a detailed analysis of the opportunities and the challenges of establishing a global logistics hub in Jamaica. In my opinion, they've made a strong and convincing appeal for strategic thinking and planning in transforming Jamaica into an international trade hub. That is, to establish partnerships within the Caribbean, to develop our own infrastructure to service expanding markets, and also to become a major player on the world stage. And we're going to hold him to his word about process, because it is a dream, I think, to be realized for Jamaica. I don't think we can turn back, but we do. It is a challenge, I think, for all decisions to be made carefully and scrupulously, and we don't sell ourselves short. Thank you to our joint authors then, Dr. Pinnock and Dr. Ajaguna, for their outstanding scholarship, and we're pleased that it will be, as we heard just now, a required text for Cape Logistics course. GraceKennedy Foundation extends its gratitude, sirs, to you both on the occasion of the 26th lecture of this series. The intention, as we are told, is to stimulate national debate, and it's facilitated by the distribution of printed copies to schools and libraries across the island. And we thank the team that has worked on the production of our book. Thank you to our chair, Professor Elsa Leorini, for preparing the foreword to the book and for giving guidance. Charmaine McKenzie, editor, who worked tirelessly to ensure that the book was produced on time. Dale Beckford, graphic artist, who designed our attractive book cover. And Richard Schofield of Phoenix Printers for producing a quality publication. I'd like to thank also all those that were involved in the organization. Maxine McDonough, our public relations consultant. Carol Gray of Hip Top Tents for the wonderful ambiance she has created here today. Robert Simmons, photographer. Junior Beckford for recording the function. And of course, the Pegasus Hotel for the venue and the delicious refreshments to follow. This year we expanded our coverage, as we told you, globally through the streaming lecture on our YouTube page. And thanks to those of you who have logged on tonight to watch the lecture. It would not have been possible without the support of Mark White and the team from Visual Tech Solutions, who provided the visual support for today's lecture. An edited version of the lecture will soon be posted on our YouTube page, and the ebook has already been launched on the GraceKennedy Foundation website. Special thanks to the partners at the Caribbean Maritime Institute, in particular Danette Brown and Ruth Bank Hansen, and the handsome gentlemen there, the cadets who served as ushers today. And to our immediate family, members of the GraceKennedy Foundation Board, for providing support, and of course members of the Secretariat, Executive Director Mrs. Carolyn Mahfood and Erica Fagan, and their team who have worked relentlessly to make this evening a resounding success. And last but not least, we thank each and every one of you for taking the time to come here and for creating the amazing energy and vibrancy of this evening's discussion and debate. I think the people asking the questions also get an A+, don't you think? For challenging our presenters and for their insightful questions. And we ask that you continue the discussions in your offices, your schools, your churches, and communities as we learn to become responsible, as we learn to become more involved in the responsible governance of our country. So may you be kept safe as you travel home, and thank you again for a wonderful, stimulating evening of erudite scholarship and discussion. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, your program says closing remarks. Those remarks will just repeat what Mr. Kennedy has just said, that there's delicious food outside, and we hope that you will enjoy it and travel home safely. I just want to add, although it's been said, both by the lecturers and by Mr. Kennedy, how very much I appreciate the work that is done by Mrs. Caroline Mafood and Mrs. Erica Fagan. They are truly wonderful to work with, and I appreciate them very much. Thank you very much. Our authors will agree to sign books. So if you bring your books up quickly, you may get your books autographed.